Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Well, let's turn back to the political turmoil in the UK now. Cabinet members have rallied to support the Prime Minister, staving off the possibility of a leadership challenge for now. But just how stable is Keir Starmer's leadership? Joining us now to discuss, Labour MP Callum Anderson, who represents the Buckingham and Bletchley constituency. Good morning, Callum. Great to have you with us on Bloomberg Radio.
Good morning.
You've posted on social media your message of support for the Prime Minister. Why?
Well, I believe he is the best person for the job. 18 months ago, the Labour Party, after 14 years in opposition, was elected to a 5-year mandate to deliver change in our economy, change in our public services, and change in the way that we do politics in this country. It's obviously been a very difficult week for the government, and it's been a turbulent 18 months. First 18 months in government, we have inherited an incredibly challenging economic and geopolitical picture, which means we haven't been able to deliver the change that people who live in my constituency want. But the time for us now, and I think last night when the Prime Minister spoke to Labour MPs and peers, was really clear his determination, his renewed determination to lead from the front. And I think we owe it to him to support him in delivering on his mandate.
Good morning to you, Callum. So how big an expectation of change should we have on all kinds of fronts? Is this, in terms of the makeup of the cabinet, the people in the room when decisions are taking place, the nature of appointments and how we add transparency to all that process? I mean, what kind of big change agenda are we talking about next?
Well, I will leave appointments to his number 10 team to him, ditto the cabinet and the junior ministerial positions. I think it's good. It's important that we give them space now over the coming weeks and months, given that we have a new parliamentary session, I anticipate, later in the spring, early summer, to deliver on that. But what I think the Prime Minister recognises, and I think what I recognise, is that if we are to realise the full potential of the manifesto that we were elected on, we do need to integrate and include the views of the whole parliamentary Labour Party, all Labour MPs and peers. I don't think we want, we don't want a situation where decisions regarding economic policy or social policy are, excessively to a small, tight group.
When you say all, are you talking about the gender in the cabinet, or are you talking about the left or right spectrum in the cabinet?
Well, what I would say, there's around 400 Labour members of Parliament. There is a lot of experience, a lot of expertise from all intakes. Obviously, I'm most familiar with my own. We've had people who run their own businesses, worked in finance, worked in all kinds of fields, and I think it's important that we leverage that expertise, because we've got huge economic and social challenges before us.
But how do you do that without worrying the markets? We've seen the wobbles over the past few days when there were questions about whether or not Keir Starmer would lead the party going from here. If you want a broader share of opinions in policy development, how do you do that and not spook your former colleagues in the City of London?
Well, I don't believe that it is mutually exclusive, that we can both be inclusive in our policy making and ensure that we are bringing the whole parliamentary party with us, but also not be entirely sticking to our fiscal rules and the concept of being economically responsible. That's certainly something that's a non-negotiable from my personal perspective. As you said, I worked for best part of a decade, 10-15 minutes away from the studio. So I know absolutely that if we are to ensure that we have economic stability, something that we didn't have really for most of the last decade, that we need to stick to those principles of economic fiscal probity. But it also means we need to recommit to our growth agenda, so that we could, but be that on infrastructure, be that on unlocking domestic pension capital, so we're really supporting those high growth industries, high growth companies in the industries of tomorrow, where we know that the UK will have a comparative advantage.
So Callum, do we need to think about a new Chancellor? I mean, on the one hand, she has stuck to the fiscal rules. On the other, candid conversations, it seems, between Wes Streeting and Peter Mandelson suggest that there's a lot of conversation about whether the top team at number 10 and 11 has enough of a focus on the growth agenda. Do Are we thinking about a new chancellor here, a new finance team?
Certainly not from my perspective. Rachel Reeves has my full support, and I think has the support of the Parliamentary Labour Party, and changing the Chancellor certainly wouldn't be something that I would be considering. I haven't read all of the WhatsApp exchanges between Wes Streeting and Peter Mandelson, but I would say is that it is important that we do have a growth strategy. That's why I think it's really good that we're already advancing pension reform through the House of Commons. We have an industrial strategy, which is, as I say, trying to support those industries, be it digital, artificial intelligence, defence, financial services, that we know Britain has excelled at. And we also have a infrastructure strategy. In my neck of the woods, in Buckinghamshire and Milton Keynes, we have East West Rail set to open soon. There's Northern Powerhouse Rail. There's Sizewell when it comes to energy infrastructure. So there's all these, there's all these ingredients for a growth strategy. But I recognise that we need to go even further in the years ahead.
And I'm sure you're going to be out on the doorsteps campaigning in the run up to the local elections, as well as many of your colleagues will be too. How do you have those conversations with voters when people are going to mostly want to know who's going to be Prime Minister after the elections?
Well, I was knocking doors in my constituency on Sunday morning, and people aren't talking about leadership. People that isn't forefront of their minds, and it's not forefront of my mind and my colleagues' minds either. It is about the cost of living. It is about their NHS, their schools, and making sure that we have an economy that works for everyone. And that's what I, as an individual member of Parliament, but also my colleagues holding government positions, are focusing on too.
When do you think we're going to, have you heard when we're going to get further information about the appointment of Peter Mandelson and all of the background story that's yet, to be published, but of course the Metropolitan Police has said certain bits can't be or won't be for a while. Any update on the timing of all of that? I
don't have any insight beyond what I think we would have seen in the media previously, that obviously the Cabinet Office will be processing those documents and they'll be published as soon as possible. And I think that's really important and a good thing.
Given the majority Labour has in Parliament, are you surprised how difficult it's been to try and keep the conversation on policy over the past 18 months?
I kind of referred to my point earlier about the real grave economic inheritance that we inherited in 2024. Be it on growth, low investment, living standards stagnant. I personally thought it was always going to be turbulent, regardless of who's in what positions and whatever, because it's not easy to turn around the big ship that is the United Kingdom economy, and that's why I think, and I totally recognise that my constituents, people, your listeners and people across the country are really keen and really eager for change, and change today, change yesterday and tomorrow. Unfortunately, a lot of the challenges that we face have no quick fixes. And that's why it's so important that all in government, all of us on the backbenches, unite behind our Prime Minister, the Cabinet, and are just relentlessly focused on how we grow our economy, how we get living standards up, cost of living down, wages up, fixing our public services, reforming our public services, that they actually are suited for not just 2026, but the next decade and the decade after that. So that's what we need to be focusing on.
OK, Callum, thank you so much for joining us. Callum Anderson, their Labour MP for Buckinghamshire and Bletchley. Appreciate your time on the programme this morning.